Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to take a look at the Daniels Guitars Royale. This is a boutique alternative that I think you should really consider if you're in the market for a high-end Les Paul type guitar. Let's take a look. So I first met Darren about 6 or 7 years ago. I took my custom shop R8 Les Paul up to his place and was playing through one of the amps there, and he was playing through one of his builds, and it just became immediately apparent there was a mojo in his stuff that wasn't in my R8, which at that point was one of the finest guitars I've ever had. So don't take this as a bashing. It's not. I love that guitar. It's actually still with me here, not in person anymore. I sold it, but it was a very good guitar. But that's testament to there was just something about these Daniels guitars. And I was very early on in my sort of career, if you like, for guitar building. And so yeah, I was really taken aback, and the kind of love affair or the want started back then. Since then, obviously got to know him quite well, and we've done quite a few shows together as part of something called the BGC, or the Boutique Guitar Collective. So around the UK we exhibit together. We each have our own stand when we do like these trade and exhibition shows, but you kind of get more pull and more space, more bang for your buck as an exhibitor if you all pull together, and you can get more space for less money, basically. And so that's how the BGC came about. So I've been doing shows with him and a lot of other boutique guys. Hello everyone. And so it's been going on, a bit of back and forth, like, yeah, I'll have one of these. No, I really will. No, I will. He's thinking, yeah, all right, shut up, Lewis. So what is the Daniels Guitar Royale? In a nutshell, it's a very high-end, incredibly well-built, modern instrument with very vintage appointments to it. So it's kind of like the perfect melding of two worlds here. Starting with, obviously, the classic shape, but on the back, if it shows up in the light, if not, I'll throw some B-roll over it. But the slight tummy tuck, now that's huge, as my ever-expanding tummy, now I'm in my late 30s, likes to push out against guitars. Just having that tummy tuck that you don't normally have on an LP type, that's a big deal. The biggest deal that you, again, might be able to see is this heel join. That's a game changer. Now I know that they may still appear on the HP if they still do the HP models, the high performance Les Paul models, but why it never came as standard, I don't know. Now some of you will go, oh, well, it's never bothered me, the heel joint. You know, it might not have. It might not. It didn't bother me. I just sort of put up with it and dealt with it on the 5 Les Pauls that I've had. And it wasn't until you play something with that kind of sculpting on it there that allows you to get up there. I mean, this could be a 24 fret model and there wouldn't be any issue with it. It's a game changer, and maybe it'd be something that you don't necessarily see as a game changer when you try it first time. You'll think, obviously, it's very easy to get on with. It's when you try and go back to something with that heel block and you just realise how much hard work it's been this time without realising it's hard work. It sounds weird, but you might get the gist of what I'm saying here. It's not until you've had something that good, go back to the old style, the old ways there, and you realise, actually, why am I putting up with this? Why are any of us putting up with this? So there's that. The next aspect of the kind of vintage appointment is the scale length. It's not 24.75, it's the old rule of 18 vintage scale length. Now, I didn't know this was a thing, and it's not until you play one and you hear one next to one of the modern ones, and by modern ones I mean anything built in the last sort of 30, 40 years, that you really understand, actually, that really small difference in the length of it does make a huge difference in the sound. Now, I know that sounds silly when you think like how different the scale length of a typical Gibson might be to a Fender, but we're talking, it's a much smaller difference than that. And it really does make a difference in how it feels and how it sounds. Now, back on to a more modern appointment, the headstock. I appreciate boutique brands get all kinds of flack by some of the sniffers, but going, it doesn't look like that, it doesn't look like this. That's his headstock, man. Like, deal with it. It's small, and if you know anything about me, I love small headstocks. You don't need all that real space up there. You don't need it. What are you doing with it? Nothing. So the other thing I really like is, you know, it's just how straight the string pull is. Yeah, okay, it's not bolt straight, but I tell you what, that is a lot straighter than you get on the flayed open book style headstocks, and I much prefer it this way. I'd rather take tuning stability and not having to retune the G every 2 or 3 songs when I'm gigging. And I know that upsets some people. I'm sorry if you like that, fine. You know, but it's another thing I look at and go, why was I putting up with this for so long? The other thing to help the tuning stability, the open gear hip shot machine heads. I love these. I love them. The hip shot stuff is really good. I tend to use them on all my Pioneers because they're just solid. And the open gears have a real classy look about them. And again, on something like this, it's refreshing to see something that isn't just another Kluson type thing with a 14:1 ratio or something like that. So they do the job wonderful. I know that. I use them on my stuff. Then back to vintage appointments, we have the Faber stop tail and the bridge. And again, they've just had the finish taken off them slightly, and it looks kind of like new old stock. It's great. Nothing really shiny on there other than obviously the finish. Right, the spec. So it's a one-piece Spanish cedar body. I use Spanish cedar. It's also commonly known as cedrela. It's a great wood. It's a Spanish cedar neck as well, one piece. The reason I say it's great is it's lightweight, it's extremely resonant. People hear cedar, and it tends to be the people who don't know about woods, and they think like acoustic guitar soundboards, and you couldn't be further from what this is. It's called Spanish cedar because basically the Spanish went over and went, it smells like cedar, hence the Latin name Cedrela odorato. But cedrela, wonderful, lightweight, extremely resonant, and it just sounds great. Very responsive, kind of what you put in, you'll get back out from it. The fingerboard is a very old stock Cocobolo fingerboard that is just phenomenal. In some ways it's like extremely old rosewood, like the old Rio boards you get, which borderline so dark that you'd in some ways you'd be forgiven for thinking it was kind of ebony. Just fantastic. And then that's complemented by the trap inlays, which have all been aged, and the Jesscar wiring. Then there's that really small matter of Darren's binding and running the binding up into the neck like no one else does. They normally finish it on the body. It's a really nice touch, and it's one of those things that, you know what, some punters just won't care. But as somebody who builds and creates guitars himself, I look at that and it's like, touche. A baked maple cap, which has a beautiful flame on it, but it doesn't matter, it's under here. I've seen it, Darren's seen it, maybe somebody else has seen it, but we know it's there, doesn't matter, it looks awesome. But the idea was a slightly lighter cap to bring the weight down, and I think this is around £7. Darren will probably be able to comment below and just tell me the exact weight. But this is a gigable, and when I say gigable, I mean 2 or 3 gigs a night, and you are not going to feel that. It's just a joy. It's a joy to play sitting down. It's a joy to play standing up. It's mission accomplished. So onto the engine room, the P90s. I always wanted a 56 gold top, and after I bought my 58, I then bought a 57. I didn't like the 57 at all. I had exhausted all my money at this point, and so there was no way I could afford a 56. So talking to Darren, it kind of made sense that I'd always wanted a 56, so he did me a 56 with the P90s. And these P90s from Mojo pickups are nothing short of sublime. They are just wonderful. You can get really, it's vintage tones on tap. These are the NOS old wire P90s. So this is about as true vintage as it gets, really. But don't be fooled. I have run them into higher gain things, and will run them through higher gain things in this video. And you'll see for P90s, they take it really well, which is not always what you'd expect. So hats off to Mark Mojo. It is the perfect pairing for this, and I know that the Royales all have Mojo pickups, and the 59 Royale that Darren finished recently that had the proper old paths in there that Mark made, and you want to look that up somewhere online and hear that. You need to hear it. There's a video of it somewhere being played next to an actual 58, and it's pretty special. Let's hear some sound clips then. For the purpose of this, we're just going into the Kool Hot Rodded Marvel. This is basically an old school JTM with the Arredondo extra gain stage put in, but I'm going to wind the gain down just to begin with. We'll start clean, and then when we do move on to the dirty channel, the gain is down a little bit anyway. As you kind of come to expect from P90s, a lot of sort of bark from the bridge and the real warmth in the neck. I think it's kind of like why I just gravitate to P90s so much. I think you kind of get the best of both worlds, almost. Anyway, but yeah, there's a real resonance and jangle to this thing. But then also just how responsive the controls are, and I know that sounds silly because a lot of guitars have responsive controls, but not all of them. So it's really responsive, and you know, if you are going to warm something up, it's probably going to be the bridge pickup, let's be honest. Even though there's one of you out there, yeah, you, who says, bridge P90s are too warm. No, they're not. Stop. Just stop. You want warmth? Get on that neck. You want warmth? Get on the neck. Obviously, tone control works exactly the same on the neck. Then, as you'd expect, the dual control layout, 2 pickups, it's very usable. There's a lot of sounds there. Let's hear this with a bit of drive on now. I've got some nice guitars in my collection, I make no bones about it, but this really does sort of top the heap at the minute, especially in terms of just making me want to play it. It's just hanging on the wall, and every time I see it, I have to pick it up. It inspires me to play. Sometimes I'm not even there, and I think about it. I think, I wish I could pick that up and play it. Sign of a good guitar. And I say, by the way, I don't earn anything from this. This is, I'm doing this because I love this guitar. I said it to Darren, and so I say it on film so everybody can hear it. This is peak guitar building. This needs to be on more people's list of high-end alternatives to something Gibson-y, something Les Paul-y. And again, I don't say this in any way to bash Gibson, but sometimes you're thinking, I'd like a Nick Huber or an Eggle or something like that. Well, there's a kind of new guy in town. It's not that new in town, but there's a new guy in town that I think you all need to pay some serious attention to, and that's Darren, Daniels Guitars. I feel the Royales really do have to be considered if you are in the market for a high-end Les Paul type guitar. Darren's lovely, send him a message, just don't talk about Telecasters and you'll get on fine. I'll put links to Daniels Guitars website down there and you can go and check out, because there's other models. His Gravitas, which is his take on the Firebird, that just received a really outstanding review in guitarist here in the UK, so worth checking that one out as well. And the other model I love is the Pugilist, and you see Keith from Xander and the Peace Pirates brandishing that one about, and I've seen it live in the flesh, incredible sound. Again, that'll go on the wish list as well. But for now, I will leave you with this little outro bit that I've put together in sort of homage to one of my favourite guitar players who played a gold top, albeit not with P90s. But hey, and I'll see you next time.